Toss a coin to your Witcher, everyone, because The Witcher 3 is getting a next-gen update on December 14th. It's kind of weird that it's called a next-gen update because it's the current generation now. These consoles have been out for 2 years. It's some weird lingo, but anyway, I got a chance to play this update, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it, including the things I like, what I disliked about it. Let's get right into it. First off, I love The Witcher 3. It is one of my favorite games of all time. It's even my favorite game of the last decade. Sorry, Breath of the Wild, but The Witcher 3 just beat you by a small hair. I love The Witcher 3, and I was very excited to hear that it was getting a next-gen update, because if it makes one of my favorite games of all time look and run better, I can't possibly say no to that. And therein lies the big feature with this update, that being the two graphics modes it offers, performance and ray tracing. Performance being my favorite mode by far, because it brings the game up to 60 frames per second and it just runs beautifully. If there were frame rate hitches, I barely even noticed them. I had a smooth experience through my time playing it. But as for the ray tracing mode, I wasn't as big a fan of this because it brings the frame rate down to 30 FPS, which is what it was originally on consoles. But man, when you see that performance mode, it is really tough to go back to that 30 frames per second mode, because the frame rate just looks even choppier when you compare it to that smooth 60 frames per second. I'm sure it's a fine 30 frames per second. I'm not anti 30 FPS, but let's face it, this generation has just spoiled me with games that have an optional performance mode more often than not, and I always have to go for it, even if the quality mode looks that much better. But in this case, I don't feel like ray tracing mode is a huge improvement over the visuals than performance mode. The ray traced lighting does look really good in some areas, the keyword being some, because during some sections, especially cutscenes, I switched to ray tracing mode to see if the scene looked much better. Sometimes it did, oftentimes it really didn't, at least to my naked eye, because when I put the footage side by side, the differences do become more apparent, but I still don't think that the sacrifice of 60 FPS is worth the cost of ray tracing. Maybe when this update comes out on PC, I'll check out the ray tracing mode there so I can also get that 60 FPS combo, but as of right now, I'm only limited to the PlayStation 5 version, and in my humble opinion, performance mode is the way to go all the way. However, if you don't mind 30 FPS, then you might want to stick to ray tracing mode, because it does make some scenes look really good, especially the indoor scenes. However, if you're like me and you love it when the game's frame rate's high as it can be, then man, you gotta stick to that performance mode. And even if you like 30 FPS, try a performance mode. And I'm very sorry if that ruins 30 FPS games for you for the rest of the time, because man, does it make this game smooth as butter. It's really handy during combat, and I just feel like movement in general is better in performance mode, because every time I switch back to the quality ray traced mode, movement just feels very clunky. But that's not the only thing that the next-gen update for The Witcher 3 adds. It also adds a couple of smaller little touches. The NPCs are more diverse. You won't be running into the same NPCs as often. There's even some options for more balanced enemy level scaling. But the bigger features that aren't the graphics modes are the accessibility ones, namely the subtitle and dialogue option size adjustments. My goodness, those subtitles in the vanilla version of The Witcher were just so tiny. And I'm playing on a 65-inch TV. I cannot have those subtitles be so tiny. I cranked them all the way up in this version of the game, and I could finally see those subtitles much more clearly now, especially the dialogue options, which are actually bigger than the subtitles when it's set to max. And even though they're bigger, they don't really clutter the image that much, so they're still very non-invasive, and I like that they managed to find a way to make those subtitles bigger. It shouldn't have been that hard anyway, but it's always appreciated, right? There are also new camera angles in this game as well that are actually defaulted to those new camera angles, which are closer to Geralt when he's on foot and when he's on horse. If you want the camera to be further away from him while on horseback but closer to him on foot, you can adjust that as well. And I didn't change that setting at all. I wanted to see what these new camera angles felt like as I played, and they felt fine. Like, I might consider switching back to the wide angle view because that's just how I've been used to playing The Witcher, but the closer camera works really well, especially in combat. And that's where it really makes all the difference, is during the combat, which I've heard many people can't really get the hang of. And you know, I understand that. It can be kind of all over the place, especially when you're taking on a group of enemies. But the new camera angles kind of fix this by making it easier to focus on each enemy. It doesn't quote unquote fix the combat. It's still very much the same Witcher 3 combat that we've been used to, but it's still a slight improvement. I think if you hated The Witcher 3's combat already, this won't really do much to change your opinions on it, but still, it's an improvement nonetheless. There's also a new way to change your spells, and that is with the Quick Sign mode, which is activated by holding down the right trigger, and then it displays each spell through the face buttons as well as L2, which lets you activate each spell on the fly. I'm still getting used to this because in my experience playing The Witcher 3, I've always just been used to switching each sign out one by one, but I'm actually starting to get used to it even more, and I might stick with Quick Sign mode as I keep playing this next-gen update. And again, even though it's an improvement, I don't think it'll change people's opinions on the combat in The Witcher 3 because it's still such a minimal change, but it's still nice not having to interrupt the game to keep changing those signs. Now, this is all good stuff, right? And it's a free update too, so why wouldn't you get it? At least try it out. But I did encounter some weird things. Not too many of them, but whenever I went into the menus and changed Geralt's outfit or gear, the screen would glitch over his character. I don't know why this is. Granted, this also is before the day 1 patch for the update, so hopefully it gets fixed with the patch. I even noticed an instance where the image was flickering off in the distance. I don't understand why that happened, but hopefully it gets fixed with the day 1 patch. Even then, very minimal, very rare that these occurred, not game-breaking in the slightest. Overall, I like The Witcher 3's next-gen update a lot. At least on PlayStation 5. Maybe when I get a chance to update my PC version of the game, I'll try it out in ray tracing mode, will run way better there. And this update includes cross-save between PS5, PC, Series X, and Switch, so that's an even bigger plus. But as it is, this is a really, really good update for The Witcher 3. My only complaint is that ray tracing mode is locked at 30 FPS. I understand why that had to be that way, but that performance mode is just the way to play it in my opinion. Along with those accessibility features that change the camera angles, the subtitle and dialogue option sizes, and the quick sign mode, makes this an update that's hard to refuse, especially since it's free. It's a really good next-gen update that brings The Witcher 3 up to even more modern standards. And let me know if you're going to check out this update in the comments. Let me know if you're going to play in ray tracing or performance mode. And until next time, bye.